Bahamas, let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
That is perfect today. And the theme for today is why wastewater. And I'm sure a lot of us haven't really considered the fact that we could be wasting water that can either be reused or not used at all in the quantity that we've been using it in. And I'll give you one example. One example is of us brushing our teeth.
Bahamas, let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
The content of Voice of the Bays radio show is the property of Save the Bays, Coalition to Protect Clifton Bay, and is intended for general information purposes only. The views expressed by the show hosts or their guests are their own, and not that of Love 97. To learn more about Save the Bays, please visit their website at www.savethebays.bs or find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Our thanks, Bahamas, for your support.
Rise up, Bahamas, let your voices blaze. Stand up, Bahamas, come on, let's save the Bays. Clifton Bay, save it. Breakers Bay, save it. Bimini Bay, save it. Let's save the Bays. Rise up, Bahamas, let your voices blaze. Stand up, Bahamas.
Good afternoon, Radio Land. Good afternoon, Bahamas. We are so excited to be here with you, talking with you wherever you may be, in your cars, in your offices, getting ready to wrap up. We'll be happy to wrap up the day with you. We're excited for one reason alone, and that's because we're here, and we can give you the message, and also to let you know that today is World Water Day. Imagine that. I mean, water is so important to each and every one of us. And the theme for this year's World Water Day is why waste water? I mean, everybody can answer that question. Why waste water? And I'll give you one example. And we probably don't even realize that we're doing it. And it's when we're brushing our teeth. We brush our teeth, not realizing that we have the water running. And we can either not use that water at all, turn off our faucets, or we can repurpose that water. But not only that, the World Health Organization is petitioning us to think of ways that we can reduce pollution, reduce illegal dumping of hazardous waste as well, by the year 2030. And so I think this theme is very fitting for World Water Day. The Bahamas being surrounded by so many miles stretched across our archipelago of water, of new life, of undiscovered life. Each and every body makeup is made up of 2/3 water, so we can all relate to it, and we can understand today why this is so important for us. So again, we need to just think within ourselves, in our homes, why waste water? We have people who may not have the means or the financial resources to have a city connection, and you have some people who aren't even realizing, because they don't have the resources, that they are disposing of their solid waste in their yards, in the neighbor's yard, in the streets, or yards in the front of them, and that's not healthy, because it's still coming back to us. That is still going into the ground. And where is it going? It's going down into that water table, and that's something that we don't want to have happen. So we need to work on ways to ensure that everybody is educated about the natural flow of water, and to also ensure that everybody has the resources so that these things don't happen. Illegal dumping should not be happening, and I was so inspired by that video that was circulating on Facebook now with Sawyer Boy and Kalika. And Kalika was, forcing him to throw out everything in the bushes. And I think that's really a good promotion that the Bahamas Forestry Unit is doing. And, creating laughter and comedy, but also sending a serious note home that illegal dumping should not be done for many reasons. I mean, it causes a lot of rodents and other annoying bugs like mosquitoes to harbor around those areas, as well as to interfere with our water table, as well as our pine forest. So we want to consider these things. So I'm really excited about World Water Day. We've been sending a lot of information, did you knows, on Facebook about facts about water. Even when I'm talking like how I'm talking right now, I feel like I need to have a glass of water. It's so refreshing. It gets our bodies going. It wakes us up in the morning. We have those cold showers, those hot showers, however we may want to have it. Water is a part of each one of our lives, and we need to really find ways to reuse those so that this natural resource is not an unlimited supply only for today, but also for our children. So I have two guests with me in studio today. I'm always excited to be in their company. I have Miss Ruth Cadet.
Good afternoon, Grand Bahama, and those of you listening throughout the Bahamas.
And I also have Mr. Bradley Rutherford.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And we're so excited to be talking to you, and I'm hoping that you would call in and get in on this chat with us. Today is really going to be centered around water and wastewater, but we're going to throw in a few exciting topics for you as well. You can call in from Nassau, and we're hoping to hear from some of our Nassauvian friends. 326-8255 from Nassau, or Freeport, Grand Bahama, 351-6176. We'll be so excited to hear from you. But just anybody, just jump in. I mean, today is World Water Day. Ruth and I decided to wear blue. Bradley, you always talk about salt life, so I'm sure you can kind of relate to this whole thing about water and wastewater and be excited just as we are about World Water Day.
Of course.
I heard you in the opening, Rashima, you were talking about thinking about the ways we use water and being aware of how much water we actually use. Recently, I've been paying so much attention to the way what it is that I believe in, seeing that it aligns with what it is that I do. And one of the practices that I found my mother doing for years now, and I don't even know that she was aware of it. I think she was just trying to save some water for her water bill. Mm-hmm. But she was actually helping the environment, and that's catching her rainwater in 5-gallon buckets and using that to water her plants.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. She's like, do you know how much water I go through just watering these plants? And I save so much money, but she's also helping the environment. And so I found myself doing the same thing when I'm watering plants. Even when I'm in the shower, I take shorter showers, or I lather up. Mm-hmm. I rinse off, lather up, turn the water off, and get all my parts cleaned, and then turn the water back on to rinse off. And so there's so many things that we can be doing that saves so much water. And in the process, we're helping the environment. And I dare mention we're helping with our water bill as well. That's always a plus when we can see where it's adding value to our pockets as well. But there's so many things that we can be doing. We had the good fortune of being out on the water Monday past, and that was such a wonderful experience. Again, we know that water is all around us, but we're not sensitive to keeping it clean, for it being there, like you said, for future generations. I can't imagine not being able to get in the water. I can't imagine our oceans being so polluted that we can't swim in them, our beaches being so dirty that we can't go to them and swim in them. So this World Water Day, I really feel like every day there should be a heightened awareness to our use of water, whether it's the water we consume or the water we use around us.
Right, and it's so good to be connected to a well-known organization like Waterkeeper Alliance, and they've really been pushing today that World Water Day is every day. And I love their motto, which is swimmable, fishable, drinkable water for everybody. And you can't get that everywhere around the world. There are some countries where they swim in polluted water. There are some places where you can't fish. And there are some places where, it takes so much to just get drinking water. And we don't have that issue here in the Bahamas. And I think sometimes because we don't have that issue, we take these things for granted. And we take for granted that some people around the world have limited supplies. So yeah, and I just want to go back to your example about your mother, because I was outside yesterday and, I'm just trying to grow my grass, and I was so mad. But I had to water the grass because it was almost like a double-edged sword kind of thing, because I see the grass getting a little getting a little brown, and I feel bad because, I like to go there and, talk to the grass and feel inspired that I'm giving life, not just by a birth of a child, but I'm giving life to a plant that, is going to help to grow and to make things look beautiful and then, just regenerate itself. But I was counting how much water I was wasting.
Wow. And
I just remembered when I did my internship at Alukaya at the time. And that's when I first found out about wastewater or reusing water, gray water they would call it. So they would use the water from the showers or from the tubs or the sinks, and they would use that water to water the grass and to water the trees. And I was like, they on to something. And I know there may be a couple large companies here on Grand Bahama that may be doing something similar to that, but I'm not sure that everybody is taking on to this concept of, everything should be environmentally centered right now. I know we have the Keep Grand Bahama Clean Committee who's really been pushing some things, and they talk a lot about litter. And people aren't understanding that this whole litter issue also goes back to water management as well. Yes. So I think it is still a disconnect in everything, and understanding why organizations like Keep Grand Bahama Clean, why groups like Save the Bays or Water Keepers are working to educate the public about these things, because we really need to fast forward maybe 10 years so that everybody is on board with what we're saying and what we're doing.
Yeah. I think we need to fast forward and then look back.
Right.
So we're able to see what it is that we can be doing now and should be doing now, so that 10 years from now we're not saying we should have done this, we should have done that, when who knows how it's going to affect the environment and our way of life. Like you said, I can't imagine not being able to eat our seafood.
Listen,
because the water is polluted. Some people they have a seafood only diet.
Right.
What do you do? Or the land, again, with so many pollutants in the land and the water table is messed up, you still can't grow anything. And so much of what we eat is grown. And so I think we need to fast forward 10 years and then look back and see what it is that we can be doing right now. And there's so many little things that we can be doing that will make a huge impact if everyone just decides that I'm going to do my small part.
Right. So you have a population of, let's say, maybe 350,000 people. But then you have 663 million people who are without suitable water around the world. So that's the whole Bahamas. So the whole Bahamas, you're included in that number. And these are numbers that we're getting from the World Health Organization. So, that's powerful to know that your entire population, just that number, those people are without suitable water, suitable drinking water, suitable swimming water, suitable fishing water.
Wow. It puts everything in perspective. I think when we look at our country as a whole, it's easy to get lost in and get disconnected from these statistics and these facts, but when you compare us and you put us on a world stage and you put our numbers against the world, you realize we could be and really should be doing more. We are an intelligent people.
Right.
We have the information, we have the resources, like you said, so many great organizations, Keep Grand Bahama Clean, Save the Bays, Water Keepers, so many great organizations doing so much to spread the message. And what they've also done, all of these organizations actually have gone into the schools and see the way that our children are learning it, because I think some of the adults are missing it.
Yeah.
I think some of us are really missing it. And so I think I applaud any organization that's really getting the message to the young people. And they are getting it.
Right.
Young people are understanding that they have a role to play and that we really can't look to the next person to do it. Well, I'm going to take as long a shower as I want. Let somebody else take a shorter shower. No, I'm going to do my part to see to it that I have this environment to enjoy for years to come.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Oh, to piggyback off what you said, I also think people look at the Bahamas as a place where we should be caring more about water, or they're under an impression immediately that we do care more about water because we're so water oriented. I mean, fishing is a very big industry here. Tourism is a big industry here, and most of our tourism is directed towards water-oriented activities. So I feel like being a tour guide at Grandmama Nature Tours, a lot of people come on my tours and expect a level of involvement as far as protection and conservation and just a general know-how. I mean, I know you're a tour guide, but at the same time, they expect you to know a little bit more about conservation. So we're sort of that's a mandate's been placed on us that we need to take seriously, and not just people in the tourism industry, but in general, as far as the water that surrounds us, the water that we use on a regular basis, the water that's underground inside of our islands, these fresh water that keeps the pine forest alive, is something we all need to take seriously.
Yeah, and so Bradley, it's almost as though you are a Bahamas environmental ambassador, if simply put, because you would need to know everything about the natural makeup of vegetation, of all of the ecosystems, and also be able to show people how we are using these ecosystems to educate them, but also showing them how we're also preserving these so that maybe their grandchildren would want to come back here for a visit and be able to see the same things that they've seen. So I don't know if it's that these are the persons, the tour guides and the tour operators, who are really getting the point because they're in it every day, where, you know, they're really the ones advocating for people to stop littering, to stop the illegal dumping, all of these things, whereas I believe everybody should be involved in it.
Well, subconsciously, I've always, before I even got into tourism, I've been inclined to everything that has to do with the water. Swimming at a young age, competitively, into working at the YMCA as a lifeguard and a swim instructor, working at the container port as a vessel planner, and just getting into tourism recently in the past 5 years. And it's just something I've definitely felt like it was a part of me. And slowly, I just started to realize just this love for water isn't enough.
Right.
I need to care about the environment surrounding the water. And I started a beach cleanup. I mean, wasn't the first person to do it, obviously. I've had people that have set the trend, but I definitely realized the significance of how important our water is as far as tourism, but every aspect of life and all of these different areas that I've been in my life, and how greatly water has affected me, and how I should take a stand in conservation. So it just eased itself into my regular way of thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so awesome that we don't see the big picture at that moment, but where life has already been predestined, that you did not realize that you were going into this step where you were going to be this water ambassador, but you've ended up being just that, just by listening to you and recollecting your experience through life, starting from swimming all the way to where you are right now. So that's so amazing that you are one who really appreciate us having that type of drinkable, fishable, swimmable water.
Well, working with waterkeepers and Save the Bays has definitely been the icing of the cake on this whole journey that I've been through.
Right.
Enjoying, water. And
so we've kind of had like the pleasure of, Ruth mentioned it just a little bit, that we've been out on the boat on Monday. And we did this as a part of our observance of World Water Day today, just to monitor, just to make sure that we are out there, that there is no litter in the oceans. So anything that we would have found, we would have collected. But also to make sure that we are comfortable in saying that our waters are as clean and as pristine as we've been bragging about, and we can stand firm to that. And we know that our waters are some of the cleanest, with very little fecal. And not everybody could brag about that. I mean, we really need to be proud of the fact that the way that we are positioned, the way that we have that natural current, that flow, that allows us to not have any type of bacteria that's being built up. And people need to be proud of that. Bahamians need to be proud of that. And Bahamians need to be so proud of that, where it's almost like they take a stance to stop any type of illegal dumping, whether it's on the beaches or in the pine forests.
I definitely see it in our waters, and it's something that I'm grateful for, but our beaches aren't
nasty.
the same.
Yeah.
It's sad. The pine forests, sad. Just the street just behind, I don't remember the name of the street, behind that we're on.
Alcester Road.
Alcester Road. Everything I think that you could possibly think of is through that road. And it is so heartbreaking to see. And so while we don't have people disposing of trash in the water, they are certainly throwing it down in the pine forest through our
Right.
roads.
So we have swimmable water, but we don't have, we're not thinking about drinkable water.
But drinkable water.
Right.
And I think it's, again, because there is such a disconnect between where we are and our use of water and where that water actually comes from.
Right.
Because like you said, Rashima, if I took pride in it, it would be so much so that even if I don't do it, I would go a step further in ensuring that nobody else does it. With the kind of trash that's through there, there's no way no one sees anything. At some point you see something. And so it needs to be reported, and then there needs to be a follow-up on it.
Right.
So I don't know who needs to follow up on it, but there should be some enforcement, because I'm sure there is a law against it. And so bring people before the courts to say, this is our environment. We're going to do whatever it takes to protect it. It makes very little sense to have a law if there's no enforcing of that law. And so get people dragged before the courts.
I think it's almost like a laughable law. Like, it's on the books.
It's
but
just
we're going to
because it's on the
laugh at you
books.
because we're still going to litter,
Yeah.
and we're going to be so happy. And I think that's why Sawyer Boy's video was so timely, because it was almost as though Kalika was telling him, you're being a punk because you don't want to litter. But the moment that someone decided to enforce the law, where was Kalika?
Dead. Kalika played dead. Kalika played dead. And it's what we all do.
Right.
It's what we all do. But I think we really need to go back to the place where, particularly in Grand Bahama, because this is where I grew up, there was such a great sense of pride, and the streets were impeccably clean.
I was just about to say, Bahamians, one thing is for certain, we have a lot of pride. And if, as a tour guide, if you can see the look of admiration that guests have when they see how pristine our waters are, it'll give you a sense that you need to do something about the litter that you see on the beaches. And because we use these beaches just the same as they do, but when they come here, it's they're so in awe of how pristine whatever's left is, that the areas that we know that we frequent, we could treat those areas a lot better. So in the event that we get more stayover guests, because that's an issue that this island I feel is facing now, just stopover guests, we get more of them, they spend a little more time on the beaches, they could see that we've taken it beyond just the areas that they temporarily visit, but just the whole island. We're showing that it resonates beyond just the ocean, because that's something that's natural.
Right.
But we're taking areas that we utilize and we're completely dumping all over it, Pampers and all sorts of weird things. We keep those areas clean. I mean, we'll really show that these are people that care about their environment, and that'll resonate beyond us into where they live. And
I think a lot of people think that, okay, we have these beach parties and we bring our garbage bags and we collect all of our garbage, but we leave the bags there for them to be picked up. Somebody else will pick it up. But before somebody gets a chance to pick it up, or the sanitation, whoever gets a chance to pick it up, the dogs go at it.
Right.
Or
The raccoons.
The raccoons, or just the elements, and the bags deteriorate and everything is just there on the floor. So we could take it a step further. Sure, the beaches that tourists are usually the ones that they go to, they're usually extremely clean.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who want to go off the beaten path sometimes, and they get their own rentals, they get their bicycles, and they go to these beaches. And you see the reviews on TripAdvisor. With such a heavily based tourist industry and how dependent we are, I can't imagine in a couple of years what the reviews are going to be like. And people, the way people are using TripAdvisor now, they won't book a ticket before they read the reviews on TripAdvisor. And so I can't imagine us not having swimmable water, fishable waters, drinkable waters, because, I mean, it's a part of who we are.
I mean, let's just look at Grand Bahama, or even some of the very remote islands within the Bahamas, like the Cat Islands or the Maguanas, places like that, very untouched natural state. And if you were to get every Bahamian who does not have a business right now, and you tell that one Bahamian, I want you to start up an eco-based business, you would find how much they appreciate the environment. You would find how much they are now the voice of the environment, because now they are benefiting from it.
Your bread and butter depends on it.
Right. So I think that's what it is for us. We don't feel as though we're benefiting from it directly. So we're not involved, and it's not our issue. Leave it up to those other people.
Mm-hmm. And it's always those other people.
Right.
It's like who are those other people? If I'm not doing it and you're not doing it, who are those other people?
So maybe, I mean, I know we have a lot of people who are looking for things to do. So maybe that's something that maybe 50 Grand Bahamians could do. And I don't see there being any type of competition whatsoever if they all decide to do some type of eco-centered business.
I think it's a great idea. And again, it's the way the world is shifting.
Yeah.
And tourists, they're looking to book the eco resorts or a smaller stay. You know, they want to eat where it's live food.
Right.
And so imagine growing your own food.
Yeah.
And even if you're not selling it in a restaurant, you're selling it to restaurants who want to buy it for their menu. And
Yeah.
so
I mean, they're looking to come here and start these things. So if that's something we value to a certain extent, we could either partner with people that are deciding to come down here and set up these things, or, get ahead of the curve and try to do something ourselves, because this is, in fact, our nature that we should be proud of.
Yeah.
And we can do it.
Yeah.
We can do it. Even if you can't do it alone, you partner with a couple of people who are business savvy and who have an appreciation for just the way the world is moving.
Yeah.
And loves a good old dollar.
Yeah.
Even if it's a second job, it's another stream of income, but there's so much that could be done.
Exactly.
You have a lot of people who are into hiking, into just biking, who want to be out camping, who want to scuba dive, who want to snorkel.
Perfect.
All of these things where it's very minimal impact on the environment, but still be able to enjoy that beauty. And I think that's what we need to pay more attention to. We need to pay more attention to world trends, and how is it that we can ensure that we are growing as a nation, but we're also, being mindful of the environment around us.
Yep.
So that was really interesting, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with you. So don't go anywhere. We're here until 5.
Love 97 FM, the Bahamas. It's a great feeling.
For rapid relief of acid indigestion, gas, and heartburn, take Dica. Dica is sucrose-free and low in sodium. Its ingredients: aluminum hydroxide equivalent to dry gel, magnesium hydroxide, and simethicone. This combination is an antacid that soothes and protects. Dica is used for the treatment and relief of symptoms of peptic ulcer, gastritis, hyperactivity, and the management of gastrointestinal disorders associated with excessive gas. Dica is available in pharmacies all over the Bahamas.
Bay, 7, Breakers Bay, 7, Liberty Bay, 7. Listen to bass. Rise up Bahamas and let your voices blaze. Stand up Bahamas, come on, let's save the bays. God gave us this land and this land we must save.
So excited to be talking to you about the fact that today is World Water Day, and today the theme for World Water Day is Why Waste Water. And World Water Day was started in 1993, so we've been going for some time now, just educating the public, reminding the public about conservation and preservation, and working towards reducing pollution, reducing illegal dumping, and illegal hazardous waste material dumping as well. If you want to call in from Nassau, the number is 326-8255. And from Grand Bahama, 351-6176. We'd like for you to get in on the chat on World Water Day and how we can find ways, very modern ways, to reduce and reuse water, whether it be in our homes or on our jobs. We mentioned before that there are a few companies, especially here on Grand Bahama, as well as other parts of the Bahamas, that are reusing water. One example that I gave was Alukaya Hotel at the time, who was using their gray water to water the lawn, water the plants, to make sure that they weren't so much of a burden to the water resources that is being provided by the utility company. And I know that the utility company is doing an exceptional job in keeping the public aware of water usage, also sending out notices about whether or not the water pressure is low, why it's low, and when those resources will be back to normal. We had a slight incident yesterday, and I think they did a superb job with keeping the public aware. So I just want to commend the utility company for the job that they have been doing there. And you know what? Speaking of that, I hope to one day get them on the show and have them talk to the public themselves. But from our radio show, Save the Bays, The Environment Speaks, I think that'll be a really interesting chat. So I'm sending out that invitation to those persons, and I'm hoping to get a very favorable response. So we were talking on the first half of the show about World Water Day, and we started to, get into this whole idea of ways that we can at home find ways to, limit our water consumption. And Ruth, you mentioned to your mother, and I was thinking of doing the same thing actually, because as I was walking around the house, I thought that, this is a lot of roof. And, we're moving away from those tiles for the roofs, and a lot of people are moving towards from shingles to now the metal roof. Yeah. So you won't get all of that extra stuff from the runoff. So it'll be almost as pure as it was coming from the sky. So I'm hoping that a lot of people really take your mother's example and run with that.
Yeah. And again, it's a duplex property on a corner lot, and I don't know the last time she's turned on the water to water her yard. Yeah. And her grass is beautiful.
Yeah.
Very beautiful lawn, and she has fruits and vegetables in the back. I know a lot of people, I see it a lot on social media, a lot of people are growing their own veggies, and a lot of people have flower gardens. And so again, use that water, repurpose that water, reuse that water that's coming from the sky, that's as pure can be.
Right.
I know during the hurricanes, we had no choice but to use that water we would have stored up. And so it's the same thing. We also at home turn down the pressure on our toilets
Right.
to ensure that we're not using more water than we really need to. And we found that we've used far less than we actually do need to, because sometimes it's just a number one and just a little water, just a quick, rinse out.
Yeah.
We'll get that all out. And so, you know, there's so much that we can do while brushing your teeth. You don't realize, well, I walk up and down when I'm brushing my teeth because I'm usually doing something else at the same time. And that's a lot of water. But even if you're standing in the bathroom, sometimes the water's just running. And I can't take it. If my brother's in the bathroom, I'd go in and just turn the water off, because it's like, that's good water. That's drinking water. That's a precious commodity.
Right.
And so we need to treat it as such.
Yeah, and I had the good fortune of visiting the island school in Eleuthera several times, and you know, the water that they use is all from the sky
To do what? The water
for
that they use
everything.
Wow.
So of course, you know, there's a rule about toilet usage and whether or not you should flush or you should not flush. So of course, you know, you shouldn't flush if it's in number one, and then, you know, if it's in number two, then, you know, go ahead and flush. But the water that they bathe with is all stored up in tanks. That's coming from, of course, the sky, and then of course the toilets and everywhere else. So those students there and those research graduates who are there are really just diving into a new experience, a new way of being completely eco-centered, where everything about that place is in touch with nature.
Well, one thing I appreciate is that working with Grandmama Nature Tours and in relations with the Lukai National Park, where we do tours, we have composting toilets. The national park has composting toilets. They
That's
don't use any running water. And also we have porta potties on our side of the street, and we use hand sanitizer. So there's all ways to conserve water.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about the compost
Composting
toilet,
toilet,
and that's usually a big hit when we carry our YA students out there, just for them
Yeah,
to
the
see
tourists
that.
find it very unique.
Yeah, and it's fresh too. Like, there's no scent at all, so that even shows you that Mother Nature really knows how to be a jack of all trades. So
Yeah, it's basically wood shavings. For those that may not know what a composting toilet is, it's wood shavings that you would put in, that you find in your hamster cage and stuff. And there's a machine that compresses everything. So if you use a number one and number two, put your shavings in, and it mats everything down. So it's also sucking the scent out. So scent-free, very convenient, and water-free.
right.
And again, it's the way the world is moving, because so many people are looking to book eco-based vacations.
Yeah.
And so that's a seller, I'm sure. Like you said, the guests are really excited to see it. They're happy. And
Definitely. It's a pleasant
kudos,
surprise. They
yeah.
come outside. What is this, Bradley? What's going on?
But it makes sense, because you're up by the caves, and so
Yeah, it is
makes perfect
out of the
sense.
way, but it would not be a problem to get water out there. But at the same time, it's something that we could conserve water and show that we're trying to have as little of a carbon footprint as possible, but we're also very mindful of water.
Yeah, because and also in using water too, we have to be mindful of the electricity that's also being used in order to generate these flows. So I'm happy that you talked about the carbon footprint, because we need to be mindful of our energy consumption as well. So we have a fascinating program that we started this year, the Waterkeeper Cadet program. And these are some of the students who have been a part of our YEA, or our Youth Environmental Ambassador program before, who really wanted to, go further into that whole research. So we've been covering the mangroves, and I'm so happy that Bradley is here, because I can talk about the mangroves, and I can talk about the fact that, they are so much for us that we don't even realize how important they are. But that's really been the focus of this semester, mangrove, whether it's mangrove preservation, understanding the makeup of mangroves, and also understanding how mangroves clean water.
Exactly. Mangrove is a very complex ecosystem, and although we value all 6 of our ecosystems, we do have to understand that I would say the mangrove is one of the most important ones because it's a filter. And it filters contaminants out of the water, but more importantly, out of the air. It's what we call a carbon sink. And when we talk about mangroves, we're talking about the mangle, just the entire area of 4 different types of mangrove trees existing in an environment. And some in particular have a very special ability, or at least the environment they're in, to trap harmful emissions, carbon emissions, things like methane and carbon monoxide in the soil. It's an anoxic environment, and it basically slows down the greenhouse process. And, the greenhouse process is something that a lot of people have taken for granted and not taken seriously, and we're seeing the negative effects of that through loss of coral reef systems, places like Australia, the Great Barrier Reef, one of, in my opinion, a wonder of the world that has seen a lot of decline. A lot of it has died, and basically when you have harmful greenhouse emissions getting into the atmosphere, it heats the environment to the point where it kills the coral in a way that we call bleaching. But basically it's removing one of the animals that coral is a symbiotic creature that has a relationship, 2 animals together. It's killing one of them and leaving it all white. That's the term bleaching, that's where that comes from. So we're not just harming one environment through destroying mangroves, but we're also killing coral, and these are 2 very important marine resources.
Right.
I had the good fortune of going to the mangroves of the southern shore with the cadets, and that was quite a pleasant surprise because I always only knew about the mangroves at the north shore.
Yeah.
We tried an experiment with some of the south shore. That didn't work out too well, but to see them really thriving on the southern coast was so good to see.
The southern coast beyond, because
True.
we knew about the ones by the Lucaya National Park, but when you get back into the Freeport area, not the Lucaya area, the Freeport area, it's really kind of difficult to locate mangroves.
Yep. And to have seen them down in the Pindus Point, Mactown area, it was like, wow. And they are doing very well.
Right.
I think it's because they're tucked away.
Yeah.
But they're doing very well. There are some houses in the immediate area, and of course there's some dumping there, and that's sad to see. I don't know if, or well, whether they are or not, the residents down there, if they realize what a gift and a blessing having those mangroves are down there are to them. But it was so good to see them there, and again thriving. And then there were some when you guys went down to Holmes Rock area. It's like, I wonder if they know that those mangroves are there, and really the importance of having them there.
When we went down to the ones in Holmes Rock, we were surprised because there was dumping there as well.
Wow.
And we're finding that we said it before, there's a disconnect because not everybody is aware of why these ecosystems are in place. And people are seeing these ecosystems as dump sites.
Yeah.
Not understanding the importance, like Bradley said, of these ecosystems and how they're protecting us and how they're ensuring that we have these resources for today and for tomorrow. So it's sad to even think about the idea of the water quality in these areas because I'm sure there's a lot of bacteria, there's a lot of contamination in these areas because you have some people who are dumping. We've seen a lot of tires, we've seen a lot of used appliances, clothes, oil,
Everything and anything.
I'm sure a mechanic went out there and just decided not to go to the landfill, but just to dump in that area. And you could tell the difference between the scent of the mangrove, that sulfuric acid, and then that extra stuff that people are using when they're dumping whatever they're dumping, solid waste, as well as household waste. So it's just sad.
It really is. And again, it goes back to there being an absolute disconnect. If we understood the importance of mangroves, if we understood the importance of the pine forest, we would know that these things are here to protect us, to help us, to be a resource to us. And we would protect it just as anything else that is a resource to us.
Yeah, the mangrove has hard enough time filtering contaminants on its own, but us adding to it is definitely a problem. And like you said, people don't really consider what effect it has on protecting us, because not only is it a carbon sink, but it also is a buffer zone to stop intense waves, storm surge, things like that from really affecting us on a more severe basis. And not to mention that it's estuary, nursing ground. There's a lot of our marine life that comes from it. You know, not necessarily all things that we eat, but things that are detrimental to the ecosystem as far as being in a food chain.
Yep.
You know, so it's very, very important
For the
place.
things that we eat.
Exactly.
So we may not eat it directly from there, but they are there to serve the things that we do eat.
Exactly.
And again, I can't imagine not being able to eat seafood. But what happens when there's unregulated development, when there's pollution to the mangroves, when people just don't care, we lose out on so much. And I pray that it does not get to the place where we don't have these valuable resources, or it's limited for us to realize their value.
Right. You know, on Monday, I actually decided to put on a brave face. And it kind of caught up with me, and I'll tell you why in a bit, but to take a chance and to see if I could walk through the mangrove. And boy, did I get stuck. And I'm you know, kind of thankful that I had both of you there, as well as Rich, who was also there to help pull me up. And we've had the cadets out, not to that mangrove, but to the mangrove in Pinders Point. And some of them got stuck too. So, it's just amazing that you know there's land being built, but you know it's not ready yet. So that was just so fun, but also kind of scary, because I could not tell where the bottom was. I didn't know if the bottom was maybe some 3 feet below where I was already sunken to. But I'm happy to be here with you in studio, as well as with you who are listening to us. And not stuck in the mangroves on Burrowwater Day. Just saying, help save when I needed you to actually save me. So that was really fun to be a part of. And I think people need to get out a little bit more, so that they can be inspired, and so that they can see this whole circle of life kind of thing.
Yep. I know one of the things that I did a couple of years ago was go kayaking. And again, I didn't know about the mangroves, because when I was in school, we weren't being taught about mangroves.
Right.
And so just going out there and kayaking through the mangroves, it gave you a greater appreciation for it.
I think all Bahamians for their 21st birthday should go on kayak. And Grandmama Nature Tours has such a good path to allow you to do an easy, very relaxed tour while you're kayaking.
We definitely give everybody, local and visitors to the island alike, an opportunity to get an involved understanding of what it is that we're doing. Not only can you get a tranquil experience through going through the mangroves, but you can also learn about the importance of keeping it the way that it is. A lot of what we discussed earlier on the show, I share with guests. And, a lot are just there for the tranquil experience that it is. And, I appreciate them for that. But also there are ones that they learn something, they take something from it, and they actually want to apply it. So I do appreciate those people. And that has been local, again, and visitors alike. So I've had very, very positive feedback and reviews from people from the island. Like Bradley, I didn't know this place was so important, this ecosystem was so important to our well-being. So, we just want to get that message across and show everybody a good time.
Yeah. And it's the perfect way of getting out on the water and not being intimidated by having to kayak in the ocean.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of that's some fear or anxiety for people where, you know, I don't think I could kayak in the ocean, but you know, come and kayak in the mangroves, and be a part of this whole water movement. Touch the water, be a part of the water, so you can understand where you came from and why all of this is important, why we have these organizations spreading this message. Remember, I said we have 663 million people without suitable water around the world.
Wow.
The entire Bahamas and some.
That's a lot.
Yep.
Without suitable water. Wow.
So I'm so happy that we've been able to have a cadet program where we have our young people being a part of this, being open to new ideas, new research methods, being able to quantify, being able to analyze, being able to look at this information and show why it's important, to show where there are areas of weaknesses, where there are areas of strengths, and how we can help improve these things. So I feel good about the program. I feel good about the fact that we've had some cadets who were out in the mangrove, who were out counting, making sure that there were a certain number of red mangroves and whether or not there was the presence of white mangroves and black mangroves. We haven't found any black mangroves in the pine forest. Pinder's Point mangrove as yet, but I'm sure we'll find maybe one or two. But you know, I'm happy that we're moving forward to inspire young people to look at these things and know why it's important.
What I particularly love about it is that no matter where they find themselves in terms of their career path, because they now have this greater appreciation for the environment, they can incorporate that into the work that they will go on to do. So they are more eco-conscious. So if you're an architect, you're an eco-conscious architect.
Yep.
And you're telling developers that this may not be the best decision because, and you can make an educated and an informed decision just based on what you know, and again, your love for the environment. And so it's great to see them so excited, so enthused about learning about it. I know that the cadets, they do more field time than they do in session time, and I that's so important, I think, just for the level that they're at, because it really gets them engaged with the environment that we're teaching about. The YEA program, they're out as well, but not nearly half as much as the cadet program. But again, it's so important that they do all that they're doing. And they're doing water sampling, they're doing all sorts of testings, and they're out there getting it all done and having a great time in the process.
Well, what the program really involves, to let the listeners know, is water sampling and the mangroves, in-depth info about the mangroves, and mapping through the use of quadrats, finding out the density of certain types of mangroves in certain areas, bacteria testing. So we're getting them involved on a level where they would have initially gotten just a taste from the YEA program, but this allows the ones that were particularly more vested to get more involved and understand exactly what it is we're trying to do to save these types of environments.
Yep. And so we're happy that we're not rushing this, because we expect that these cadets will be a part of us probably until they would have graduated from high school, if not longer. So we're happy that we're able to focus this semester on just mangrove and how important they are, and how it helps with clean water, and how it helps with coastal protection as well. So we don't want to rush them. We want them to really get everything that they could get from this topic. And it'll be so interesting to see their presentations at the end of this semester and see all that they have gathered in this time. So I feel good. I feel good about the future. And I'm hoping that we have other programs that are, looking at ways to inspire young people. I know Gail Woon and Earth Care has been doing a really good job with the younger kids. And I'm aware of the Young Marine Explorers in Nassau, who have been also doing a counting exercise as well after Hurricane Matthew. I was so happy to see that the Bahamas National Trust is now allowing school visits more than they have been before. And they have some really bright minds who work at these parks, especially in Nassau. I think it's the Pine Forest Primitive Primeval Forest, I believe, Primeval Forest in Nassau. There's one young guy there. Oh my God, he is so knowledgeable.
Wow.
I was there just for a short period of time, but I felt like so educated after I left. It was almost as though I could wear a necktie and a blazer all day because I got so much information from him during that tour. So it's good that these organizations are realizing that they have capable people now, and they're sending the message out there. And we're now understanding that we need to educate. We need to do a little bit more to get people in these places so they can see what we're talking about. So I'm really happy for that cadet program. And so our YEA session, we had a wonderful time on Saturday. We incorporated our secret ingredient into the program, and I think a lot of the youth environmental ambassadors were really surprised about that, because they come there really to learn about the environment, but you can't just teach them about the environment. You have to teach them that they are leaders inside and that they need to bring this leader out, and also in bringing this leader out, the drumming part of this is so important, because yes, you're going to make your own music, or you're going to beat your own drum, but you're going to beat your own drum in concert with others. And that's such a strong message. And I'm so happy that they were able to understand that this was really actually, and I'm going to admit this, and I'm sorry for my other YEAs, but this was really one of the best introductory drumming sessions that we've had.
This is the second one that I've been privileged to be a part of, and this cycle came out strong.
Yeah.
They came out strong. They sounded like Junkanooers on Bay Street. They were so excited. And for the most part, we didn't have to settle them down. I think they were really listening to get the instructions and to understand. And you mentioned the leadership component of the program. And what I love about this drumming is that it's not just drumming, but it's to drive home the concept that we strongly endorse, and that is the DAC model: direction, alignment, and commitment.
Yep.
And when they got that and they see how it applied to the drumming, I think that drove it all home. And I love that we're doing that with this program, where there is a principle that is taught or a concept that is introduced, and that is reinforced through our activities. And this drumming session has been that. If any YEA parents are listening, you are in for quite the treat, because your young people they're loving it. And so come May 6th for our pinning ceremony, that's something that the parents are going to be treated to, and we're very excited to have them drumming, excited for the parents and their feedback from it. And so that was great. I think it's the one thing that I look forward to the most, to be honest. Like I can't.
Not the field trips?
The field trips are great, but after you've been a couple of times, you're like, okay, I've been there. But to hear how and see how each group responds to a drum? What's this drum for?
This has been my first year with the program, and I have to say I was really excited to see how the children received the use of the drums, because it really invoked the leadership qualities within them, and also you saw the personality come out a lot more.
That's a great point. There's one young lady in particular, one of the YEAs in particular, she's so reserved, so reserved. And when she started drumming, she was kind of 1-2-ing. But when she got into that, she was doing up herself. And I'm like, yeah, she was definitely feeling it. And again, our young people are so brilliant. And we're realizing more and more that in their own right, they are amazing young people. And what works for one person may not work for another person. But we're finding ways to cultivate, we'll draw out, and then cultivate the leader in each of them. And to get each of them to see that they have something to give to the world. And this drumming was that for her, that she could be in concert with everybody else, but she made a unique sound. And that sound adds to the overall sound. And it's not the same when you're not drumming. And so I think this just drumming, I don't know whose idea it was to begin with, but it is such a phenomenal activity to do with these young people. It's awesome.
And I just want to throw in that plug, like you said, that our pinning ceremony is May 6th. And we're so excited. And I just want to encourage parents to be there, but I also want to encourage the Minister for Grand Bahama to also be there. You're really missing out on something that's so dynamic. And even Miss Michelle Reckley, who's in charge of the Urban Renewal Department here on Grand Bahama, just to see what our young people are doing, what they're being involved in. So I want to encourage you to put that down on your calendars to be there. Even the principals of the schools, the principals who have been there last session were in for a treat, and I'm sure they'll be there this year. But all the principals, I want you to see what your your students are doing outside of school hours. There are some who are really going to be powerful people in the next 10 to 15 years. So just to be there to encourage them. So just remember, May 6th is our pinning ceremony, and I want to see as many people in there where there's not even standing room. I'm so excited that we had such a good show today. Just want to remind everybody that even though World Water Day is going to end at 11:59 p.m., but World Water Day is every day. We can always find ways to reduce or reuse our waters, and to also be mindful of our illegal dumping so that we are preserving our fresh water for today as well as for tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening in, and it's time to clock out now. So for all of you who are getting off at 5, I'm so happy that you were here with us, and we'll see you next week.
Bahamas, let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
The content of Voice of the Bays radio show is the property of Save the Bays, Coalition to Protect Clifton Bay, and is intended for general information purposes only. The views expressed by the show hosts or their guests are their own, and not that of Love 97. To learn more about Save the Bays, please visit their website at www.savethebays.bs or find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. Our thanks, Bahamas, for your support.
Rise up, Bahamas, let your voices blaze. Stand up, Bahamas, come on, let's save the bay.